The slap echoed across our kitchen while his wife just watched. My 32-year-old son Tyler had just struck me. In my own home. Well, technically his home now, built on the 5 acres I'd bought him in Texas. But as I stood there, tasting blood from my split lip, I didn't cry. I didn't beg. I didn't even get angry. I smiled. Not a happy smile. The kind of smile that comes when everything suddenly becomes crystal clear. When 40 years of construction work, of sacrificing everything for an ungrateful child, finally makes perfect sense. Tyler stepped back, probably expecting me to yell or storm out like some wounded old man. His wife Rebecca just stood there with her arms crossed, like she was watching a mildly interesting TV show. But what happened next changed everything, because sometimes the quietest people make the loudest statements. Let me back up and tell you how we got here. 5 years ago, I made what I thought was the smartest decision of my life. I'd just turned 60, been swinging hammers and pouring concrete for 4 decades with Morrison Construction. My hands looked like leather gloves, permanently stained with grout and motor oil, but I'd saved every penny I could. $180,000. That's what those 5 acres in Cypress, Texas cost me. Not some inheritance, not some lucky lottery ticket. 40 years of 4 a.m. wake-up calls and overtime weekends. Tyler had just gotten engaged to Rebecca, this marketing manager from Dallas, whose daddy owned 3 car dealerships. Smart girl, college-educated, the whole package. She kept talking about their dream home and how they'd never afford land prices in Texas. So I did what fathers do. I bought them a future. The property was beautiful. Rolling hills, old oak trees, far enough from Houston to feel peaceful, but close enough for Tyler's software job. He made $95,000 a year writing code for some tech company. Good money, real good money. More than I'd ever seen in construction, but apparently not enough for the life Rebecca had planned. I remember the day they broke ground. June 15th, 2019. Tyler shook my hand and said, "Dad will never forget this." Rebecca hugged me and called me the best father-in-law ever. I should have gotten that in writing. The house took 6 months to build. 3 bedrooms, 2.5 baths, granite countertops, the works. They spared no expense because, well, they didn't have to. The land was free. That's when things started changing. At first, it was small stuff. Tyler would correct me when I used the wrong tech terms around his friends. Rebecca would laugh and say, "Oh, Frank just doesn't understand how modern economics work." Like I was some old fool who'd stumbled into money. Then it got bigger. Tyler started treating me like hired help. When their garbage disposal broke, he didn't ask if I could fix it. He told me to fix it. When Rebecca wanted a garden shed, Tyler handed me a list of materials and said, "You know where to get this stuff cheap, right?" I did it all, because that's what fathers do. But the real wake-up call came last Christmas. Rebecca's parents visited from Dallas. Her father, Richard, owned those car dealerships I mentioned. Nice man, actually. Successful. The kind of guy who wore Rolex watches and talked about investment portfolios. We're all sitting around their dining room table when Richard asks about their mortgage payments. Rebecca laughs and says, "Oh, we don't have a mortgage." Frank gave us the land. Richard looks impressed. "That's generous." "What's the property worth now?" Tyler jumps in. "Market analysis shows around 420. We've really added value with our improvements. Our improvements. Like I hadn't spent every weekend for 6 months helping him install that deck. Like I hadn't wired the workshop myself to save him $3,000. But here's the kicker. Richard turns to me and says, "Frank, you must be proud watching Tyler build equity like this. Real estate's the foundation of generational wealth." Before I can answer, Tyler says, "Dad's more of a cash flow guy. Blue-collar mentality, you know? Different investment philosophy. Blue-collar mentality, like working 40 years to buy your son a future was some kind of character flaw." Rebecca nodded along. Tyler's taught me so much about property investment. His generation just thinks differently about money. His generation. Like I'd been lucky enough to buy land with monopoly money. I excused myself to use the bathroom. Sat on the edge of their bathtub for 5 minutes, staring at my reflection in their mirror. When did I become the charity case in my own gift? But that wasn't even the worst part. The worst part was February 23rd. Tyler calls me up, says they're having people over for Rebecca's birthday. Casual barbecue, nothing fancy. Could I come by early and help set up? I show up in my work clothes because I'd been fixing Mrs. Peterson's fence all morning. Steel toe boots, Carhartt jacket, the whole construction uniform. Tyler takes one look at me and says, "Dad, could you maybe use the side entrance? Rebecca's boss is here." The side entrance of the house I'd made possible. I asked him what was wrong with the front door. Tyler sighs like I'm being difficult and says, "It's just, you look like you're here to do work, not attend a party." Image matters in Rebecca's industry. Image matters. I looked down at my hands, permanently stained from decades of honest work, and realized my son was embarrassed by the man who'd built his entire life. That night, driving home in my 2018 F-150, I made a decision. Well, not exactly a decision. More like an admission. I'd been enabling something ugly, and it was time to stop. But I had no idea how bad things would get before I could fix them. He had no idea what I'd been quietly planning. The phone call that broke everything happened on March 10th. A Monday morning. I remember because I was reviewing my property taxes when Tyler called. "Dad, we need to talk." His tone was different. Cold, corporate, like he was firing an employee. "What's on your mind, son?" "Rebecca and I have been discussing our situation. We think it's time to establish some boundaries." Boundaries. I'd built him a life, and now he wanted boundaries. "What kind of boundaries, Tyler?" "Well, first off, you can't just show up whenever you want anymore. This is our home now. You need to call, first. Our home. Built on my land. With my money enabling every brick, I kept my voice steady." "I see. Anything else?" "Actually, yes. Rebecca feels uncomfortable when you criticize our lifestyle choices. The comments about our spending, our friends, our decisions, it needs to stop. Can you give me an example of these criticisms?" Tyler paused. I could hear Rebecca coaching him in the background, her voice sharp and insistent. "Like last week when you said Rebecca's handbag cost more than your monthly grocery budget. That was inappropriate." I was making conversation. "That Hermes bag did cost $2,400. I saw the receipt on your counter. See, that's exactly what I'm talking about. You don't understand our financial situation. We can afford nice things now. We're not living paycheck to paycheck like your generation, like my generation. The generation that bought him everything he owned." Rebecca grabbed the phone. I could hear Tyler trying to stop her, but she was on a roll. "Frank, I'm going to be direct because Tyler's too nice. Your constant guilt trips about money are toxic. We didn't ask you to buy this land. You offered, and now you act like we owe you something." "I don't recall asking for anything back, Rebecca." "Oh, please." The sighing, the comments, the way you look at our things like we're spoiled children. Tyler earns good money. We deserve nice things. You're right. Tyler does earn good money. $95,000 a year. That's more than I ever made. Exactly. So maybe it's time you realize that your generation's way of doing things isn't the only way. Some of us actually understand investment and wealth building. Investment, wealth building. I stared at my property deed, remembering the day I'd signed it over to make their construction loan possible. "Rebecca, can I ask you something?" "What?" "How much have you and Tyler contributed to your current living situation?" "Dollar-wise." She went quiet. Tyler grabbed the phone back. "Dad, this isn't about money. It's about respect. We're adults now. We make our own decisions." "I understand. So help me understand something. If this isn't about money, why did you call it our financial situation and our home?" "Because it is our home. We live here. We've invested in improvements." "What improvements specifically?" Another pause. Longer this time. "The deck. The landscaping. The workshop wiring." "Tyler, I built that deck with you. I did the wiring myself. I paid for half the landscaping materials. You helped, sure. But we planned it. We managed the project. That's called sweat equity, Dad." "Sweat equity?" From the kid who'd never swung a hammer before I taught him. "And how much have you invested in total? Both of you, since you moved in?" Tyler was getting frustrated. "I don't see why that matters. Humor me. I don't know, 12,000, 15 maybe? $12,000 in 5 years. Dad, this conversation is getting weird. What's your point?" I looked at my filing cabinet, full of receipts they'd never bothered to ask about. Property purchase, construction loan guarantee, wedding expenses, college tuition, car down payment, Tyler's dental work when he was uninsured. My point is that you're talking about boundaries and respect while living on land that cost me $180,000. In a house that exists because I co-signed your construction loan, eating off dishes I bought you for your wedding. Rebecca grabbed the phone again. Frank, this is exactly the manipulation I'm talking about. Keeping score, throwing your generosity in our faces. It's emotional abuse. Emotional abuse. For remembering what I'd sacrificed. Rebecca, I'm not throwing anything in anyone's face. But if we're talking about boundaries and respect, maybe we should acknowledge reality first. Our reality is that we're young professionals trying to build a life, and you're an aging blue-collar worker who can't accept that his son has surpassed him. Surpassed me, with my money, on my land. I see. Do you? Because Tyler is embarrassed by your constant reminders of how much everything cost. His colleagues notice. My boss noticed at the party. You make us look like charity cases. Charity cases? Yes, like we couldn't have succeeded without your handouts. Some of us actually understand that success isn't about how many hours you work with your hands. Tyler tried to get the phone back, but Rebecca wasn't finished. Frankly, your generation just doesn't understand property investment. You bought land and got lucky with appreciation. We're the ones adding real value here. Real value? I closed my eyes and smiled that same smile from the kitchen. Rebecca, you're absolutely right. I am? Yes. It's time I learned about modern property investment. That phone call was the last mistake they'd ever make with me. That night, I couldn't sleep. Not because I was angry, because I was finally completely clear. I'd spent 5 years watching my son transform from grateful to entitled. 5 years of watching Rebecca poison him against the man who'd made their life possible. 5 years of being treated like an embarrassing relative at my own gift. But the phone call had crystallized something important. They didn't see the land as mine anymore. They saw it as theirs. And in their minds, I was just some old man who couldn't accept their success. Fine. Let's talk about ownership. At 6 a.m., I drove to my lawyer's office. James Patterson had handled my construction contracts for 20 years. Good man, straightforward. Frank, you look like hell. What's going on? I pulled out my property deed and set it on his desk. James, I need to understand something. This land in Cyprus, Tyler's house sits on it. But legally, who owns it? James examined the deed. You do. Clear title. No liens, no cosigners. Why? Can I sell it? Of course. It's your property. But Frank, Tyler's house, would become the buyer's problem, correct? James leaned back in his chair. Technically, yes, but any buyer would have to honor existing structures. What are you thinking? I told him about the phone call, about 5 years of escalating disrespect, about being called an emotional abuser for remembering my own sacrifices. James, I need you to research something. What's this property worth today? He made some calls, pulled up recent sales, ran the numbers. Conservative estimate, 400,000. Could go higher with the right buyer. Development companies are hungry for land out there. 400,000. More than double my investment. James, if I sold this land, what happens to Tyler? Well, legally, the new owner would have to give him notice. 60 days is standard after that. James shrugged. He'd need to negotiate with the new owner. Rent, purchase, or relocate. What would fair market rent be for a house like that? On 5 acres? $2,800 a month, minimum. Maybe $3,000? $2,800 a month. Tyler's mortgage payment had been zero. I stared at the deed. My name, my signature, my 40 years of work. James, I want to list this property. Frank, are you sure? This will destroy your relationship with Tyler. James, Tyler destroyed our relationship yesterday when his wife called me an emotional abuser for remembering what I'd invested in their future. But he's your son. Yes, and sometimes fathers have to teach sons lessons they should have learned years ago. James pulled out his phone. I know a commercial realtor, specializes in development properties, but Frank, once we list this, there's no going back. I understand. He made the call, set up a meeting for that afternoon. At 2 p.m., I met with Sandra Martinez from Pinnacle Properties. Professional woman, sharp. She walked the property for an hour, took photos, ran comparable sales. Mr. Morrison, this is prime development land. 5 acres, no deed restrictions, existing infrastructure. I can have 3 buyers by Friday. What's your best estimate? $420, cash, quick close. $420,000. Tyler's investment of $12,000 would cost him $33,600 a year in rent, or force him to start over somewhere else. There's one condition, I told Sandra. The current residents don't know it's for sale. I want this handled quietly until closing. Understood. We'll market it as development opportunity and note the existing structure. Buyer assumes tenant relationships. Tenant relationships. Tyler was about to become a tenant on land he thought he owned. I signed the listing agreement that afternoon, March 11th, 2024, exactly one day after Rebecca called me an emotional abuser. That evening, I sat in my apartment looking through old photos. Tyler as a kid helping me fix my truck, Tyler graduating college with honors I'd paid for, Tyler's wedding, where I'd walked him down the aisle because his mother had died when he was 12. For a moment, doubt crept in. Was I being vindictive? Cruel? Then I remembered Rebecca's voice. Some of us actually understand that success isn't about how many hours you work with your hands. And Tyler's voice? Blue-collar mentality? Different investment philosophy. I put the photos away and made myself dinner. Sometimes love means enforcing consequences. Sometimes respect has to be earned the hard way. In 48 hours, my son would discover that modern property investment works both ways, but he still had no idea what was coming. The for sale sign went up on Thursday morning at 7 a.m. I wasn't there to see it, but Mrs. Henderson from next door called me at 7:15. Frank, honey, there's a real estate sign in Tyler's front yard. Big commercial one. Says development opportunity. What's going on? Thanks for letting me know, Mrs. Henderson. I hung up and waited. Tyler called at 7:43 a.m. I let it ring 4 times before answering. Dad, what the hell is going on? About what? There's a for sale sign on our property. Our property. Even now. Good morning, Tyler. How are you feeling today? How am I feeling? There's a real estate sign in my yard. People are slowing down, taking pictures. Rebecca's freaking out. That's unfortunate. Have you called the real estate company? Of course I called them. They said the owner listed it yesterday. Dad, what did you do? I could hear Rebecca in the background, her voice shrill and panicked. Something about calling lawyers and property rights. Tyler, I took your advice from Monday's phone call. What advice? You said I needed to understand modern property investment. So I educated myself. Long pause. I could hear Tyler's breathing, heavy and confused. Dad, this isn't funny. Take it off the market. I'm afraid I can't do that. What do you mean you can't? Just call them back. Tyler, I signed a binding contract yesterday. The property is actively marketed to commercial developers. Another pause. Longer this time. Developers? Dad, our house is on this land. Yes, and the listing clearly states that. Existing structure, buyer assumes tenant relationships. Tenant relationships? We're not tenants. We live here. Actually, Tyler, as of today, you are tenants. You're living on property that belongs to someone else. I could hear Rebecca grab the phone. Frank, this is insane. You can't sell land with our house on it. Rebecca, according to my lawyer, I can absolutely sell my land. What happens to structures built on it becomes the buyer's responsibility. But this is our home. No, Rebecca, this is my land. Your home sits on it. Those are 2 different things. Tyler got the phone back. His voice was shaking now. Dad, stop this. Whatever we said on Monday, we can talk about it. Just take the house off the market. Tyler, the land is on the market. Your house just happens to be on the land. You're splitting hairs. Take it down. I signed a contract. There are already 3 interested buyers. Dead silence. Then Rebecca screaming in the background about calling police, calling lawyers, calling her father. Dad, how much do they want for it? It's listed at $420,000. Tyler made a choking sound. $420? We can't afford that. Well, there is another option. What option? You could rent from the new owner. Rent? We own this house. Tyler, you own a house. You don't own the land it sits on. Those are 2 very different legal concepts. How much would rent be? I could hear papers shuffling. Tyler frantically searching for documents he'd never bothered to read. Market rate for a house on 5 acres in Cyprus runs about $2,800 a month. $2,800? Dad, that's more than most people's mortgages. Yes, it's also what land ownership costs when you can't afford to buy. Rebecca grabbed the phone again. Frank, this is financial abuse. You're trying to blackmail us. Rebecca, I'm selling my property at market value to legitimate buyers. How is that abuse? Because you know we can't afford $400,000. Then perhaps you shouldn't have assumed you owned something you never paid for. Tyler was back on the phone, his voice desperate now. Dad, what do you want? An apology? We're sorry, okay? We're sorry about the phone call. Tyler, this isn't about an apology. Then what's it about? It's about understanding value. Real value. Not the imaginary value you think you created with $12,000 in improvements. Dad, please. Rebecca's pregnant. The line went quiet. Rebecca started crying in the background. She's what? 3 months. We were going to tell you next week. Dad, you can't make a pregnant woman homeless. I closed my eyes, took a deep breath. Tyler, I'm not making anyone homeless. I'm selling my property to its highest bidder. What you do next is your choice. Our choice? What choice do we have? You can negotiate with the buyer. You can find financing to purchase it yourself. You can relocate, or you can rent. From strangers. Yes, from people who will charge you market rate for the privilege of living on land they own. Rebecca was sobbing now. Tyler's voice cracked. Dad, this will ruin us financially. Tyler, you told me you understood investment and wealth building. You said your generation thinks differently about money. Well, congratulations. You're about to get a graduate-level education in property economics. I hung up. The phone rang immediately. I turned it off. At noon, Sandra Martinez called on my landline. Mr. Morrison, we have an offer. Cash, $420, 14-day close. Buyer is a commercial developer. They understand the tenant situation. Accepted. Sir, are you certain? Once we sign this acceptance. Sandra, I've never been more certain of anything in my life. He still didn't understand what was happening, but in 14 days he would. Tyler showed up at my apartment Friday evening, unannounced, desperate. I heard his Tesla pull into the parking lot, that whisper-quiet electric hum he used to brag about. $67,000. Leased, of course. $867 a month. The knock on my door was aggressive, demanding. I opened it to find my son standing there in his designer jeans and tech company polo shirt, eyes red from crying or rage, maybe both. Dad, we need to talk. Come in. He stepped inside my one-bedroom apartment, 400 square feet, clean, simple, paid for. His eyes swept the space like he was seeing poverty for the first time. Dad, this is insane. You live like this while we... He stopped himself. While you what, Tyler? Nothing. Look, I talked to a lawyer. Rebecca's dad got us a consultation with his real estate attorney. Good. What did they tell you? Tyler's hands were shaking. They said you're within your legal rights. But Dad, just because you can do something doesn't mean you should. Interesting perspective. Continue. Rebecca's having panic attacks. She's pregnant, stressed, scared we'll lose everything. The doctor says stress can cause miscarriages. I gestured to my small couch. Sit down, son. Tyler perched on the edge, unable to relax. Tyler, tell me something. When you called me Monday and established boundaries, did you consider my feelings? That was different. How? You were making us uncomfortable with the comments, the guilt trips. I see. So when I made you uncomfortable by remembering my investments, you established boundaries. But when you make me uncomfortable by calling me an emotional abuser, I should, what? Accept it? Tyler's voice cracked. Dad, we never called you that. Rebecca did. Monday, on the phone. Direct quote, it's emotional abuse. Want me to replay the voicemail I saved? He went pale. You recorded us? Texas is a one-party consent state, Tyler. But no, I didn't record you. I just have a good memory for insults. Tyler buried his face in his hands. Dad, what do you want? Tell me what you want and I'll do it. I want you to pay market rate for the privilege of living on someone else's land. We can't afford $2,800 a month. Then you can't afford to live there. But where will we go? I looked at my son, 32 years old, software engineer, father-to-be, asking his old man to solve problems he'd created. Tyler, what does Rebecca pay for that Hermes handbag? Dad, don't. $2,400 for one purse. That's almost 1 month's rent. This isn't about Rebecca's purse. No, it's about priorities. You can afford 2,400 for a purse, but not 2,800 for housing. Tyler stood up, anger flashing. That's different, and you know it. How? Because housing is ongoing. It's every month. So is income, Tyler. 95,000 a year. That's 7,900 a month. Rent would be 35% of your income. That's actually conservative by industry standards. But we're used to paying zero. Yes, and that was a gift. Gifts can be revoked. Tyler stared at me like I was a stranger. Dad, I don't understand what happened to you. What happened to me, Tyler, is that I finally understood what you've been telling me for 5 years. What have I been telling you? That I'm an embarrassing old man with a blue-collar mentality who doesn't understand modern economics. So I decided to get educated. This isn't education. This is revenge. I walked to my kitchen, poured myself coffee, didn't offer him any. Tyler, let me ask you something. Do you respect me? Of course I respect you. Do you? Because Monday you told me I had a blue-collar mentality. Your wife called me an emotional abuser. You make me use side entrances at parties. You correct my grammar in front of your friends. Tyler was quiet. Son, respect isn't something you say. It's something you show. And for 5 years you've shown me exactly how much you respect the man who bought your future. Dad, I'm sorry. We're both sorry. I set down my coffee and looked him in the eyes. Tyler, apologies don't fix character. They just acknowledge damage already done. So what happens now? Now you learn what the real world costs. But the real shock was still coming. By Saturday morning, Rebecca had declared war on social media. I didn't use Instagram or Facebook much, but Mrs. Henderson's daughter showed me the posts. Screenshots on her phone, shared in neighborhood group chats, spreading like wildfire. Rebecca's Instagram story, posted at 6 a.m., experiencing elder abuse from family member who's trying to make his pregnant daughter-in-law homeless. Some people can't handle their children's success. Prayers needed. Elderabus, hashtag toxic family, pregnancy stress. 43 comments in 2 hours, mostly supportive. A few asking for details. But Rebecca wasn't done. Her Facebook post went live at 8 a.m. When your father-in-law tries to evict you from his land because you asked for basic boundaries. We built our dream home here, improved the property, invested our savings. Now he wants to sell it because we told him his constant guilt trips were inappropriate. Tyler is devastated. I'm pregnant and terrified. This is what financial abuse looks like when elderly family members can't accept that their children have grown up. I had financial abuse. Elder abuse had boundaries. 68 comments by noon. The story was getting twisted with each share. Tyler's LinkedIn post was more professional, but equally damaging. Dealing with a difficult family situation involving property disputes and boundary issues with an aging parent. Reminder that success sometimes threatens those who feel left behind. Grateful for my wife's strength during this stressful time. Hashtag family, hashtag boundaries, hashtag professionalism, his colleagues were commenting, offering support, sharing their own toxic parent stories. By Sunday, Rebecca had escalated to neighborhood forums. Warning, property owner on Oakwood Drive is selling land with occupied homes without tenant notification. Current residents being forced out with 2 weeks' notice. This could happen to anyone renting in Cypress area. Check your lease agreements. Hashtag renters' rights at our Cypress homes. That post got shared in 17 local Facebook groups. Monday morning, my phone started ringing. Tyler's boss from the tech company, Rebecca's friends, neighbors asking if the stories were true. I didn't answer any of them. But Tuesday morning, Rebecca made one crucial mistake. She posted a GoFundMe. Help Tyler and Rebecca fight elder abuse. My husband's father is trying to make us homeless because we asked for boundaries. We invested our life savings in improvements to his property, and now he's selling it to strangers out of spite. I'm pregnant, and we need funds for legal fees and emergency housing. Any amount helps. I'll let elder abuse and I'd help pregnant. Goal, $25,000. She included photos of their house, their car, their lifestyle, designer furniture, professional photography, Rebecca's Hermes collection visible in the background. The GoFundMe description painted me as a vindictive old man destroying his pregnant daughter-in-law out of jealousy over their success. It raised $800 in 6 hours. But it also did something Rebecca didn't expect. It created a public record. Wednesday morning, I drove to James Patterson's office with printouts of every post, every comment, every share. James, I need you to document all of this. Frank, this is defamation. Clear libel. You could sue. I don't want to sue. I want you to archive everything, screenshots, timestamps, the works. Why? Because Rebecca just made this public. And if it's public, the truth should be public too. James spent 2 hours capturing everything. Posts, comments, shares, the GoFundMe page, even the cached versions Rebecca had tried to delete. Frank, what are you planning? I pulled out a manila folder. 5 years of documentation. James, I want you to prepare a factual response. Not emotional, not defensive, just facts. What kind of facts? I spread the contents across his desk. Tyler's college tuition receipts, $67,000, paid by me. Wedding expenses, $23,000, paid by me. Car down payment, $8,000, paid by me. Property purchase, $180,000, paid by me. Construction loan guarantee, co-signed by me. Tyler's actual financial contributions over 5 years, documented at $11,800. Rebecca's contributions, $0. James, I want a timeline. Every dollar, every date, every receipt. Public record. Frank, if you release this, it'll destroy them. James, they just tried to destroy me with lies. I'm simply offering the truth as balance. Where do you want this published? I smiled that same quiet smile. Everywhere they posted their version. Let the community decide who's telling the truth. He made one crucial mistake by going public, because I'd been keeping records all along. Thursday evening, I sat at my kitchen table with 40 years of financial records spread out like evidence in a courtroom. This wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about truth. James had suggested I wait, let emotions cool, maybe handle things privately. But Rebecca's GoFundMe was still active, still collecting money from strangers who thought they were helping victims of elder abuse. I opened my laptop and started typing. Public response to recent social media claims, Frank Morrison. I kept it simple, factual. Let the numbers tell the story. Several people have asked me to respond to social media posts claiming I'm committing elder abuse and financial abuse against my son and daughter-in-law. Here are the documented facts. Property purchase, March 15th, 2019. Oakwood Drive, Cypress, Texas, $180,000. Paid in full, cash from personal savings. No cosigners, no family contributions. Construction financing, June 2019. Cosigned construction loan, $240,000. Monthly payments guaranteed by Frank Morrison. Tyler and Rebecca's down payment, $0. Educational expenses, 2011 to 2015. Texas A&M tuition and fees, $67,000. Paid by Frank Morrison. Student loans in Tyler's name, 0 wedding expenses, 2018. Reception, flowers, catering, $23,000. Paid by Frank Morrison. Couples contribution, $0. Vehicle purchase, 2019. Tesla Model Y. Down payment, $8,000. Paid by Frank Morrison. Monthly lease payments, Tyler Morrison. Home improvements, 2019 to 2024. Materials and labor, documented receipts, $11,800. Frank's contributions, $7,200 materials, plus 240 hours labor. Tyler and Rebecca's contributions, $4,600 materials only. Total investment by Frank Morrison, $525,200. Total investment by Tyler and Rebecca Morrison, $4,600. Current property value, $420,000. Appraised March 2024. Market rent for comparable properties, $2,800 per month. The property sale was initiated after being told my financial contributions constituted emotional abuse and that my blue-collar mentality prevented me from understanding modern economics. I am not evicting anyone. I am selling my property to its highest bidder. The new owner will determine tenant relationships. These are facts, not opinions. Documentation available upon request. Frank Morrison, I attached copies of key receipts. Property deed, Tyler's diploma, wedding photos showing the paid invoices in the background. Then I posted it. Not on Facebook or Instagram, on Nextdoor, the neighborhood app where property values and community reputation actually mattered. Within an hour, the comments started. Holy crap, Frank, 500,000 over 5 years? Wait, they contributed 4,600 and he contributed half a million. This completely changes the story. Rebecca's GoFundMe makes them look like frauds now. Tyler went to A&M tuition free and I'm over here with student loans. Frank, you want to adopt a 40-year-old? But the real momentum came when Mrs. Patterson from 3 houses down shared her own story. Frank Morrison built my deck in 2018, charged me materials only, refused payment for labor, said neighbors help neighbors. This man spent a weekend fixing my late husband's workshop, wouldn't take a dime. Anyone calling him abusive doesn't know Frank Morrison. Other neighbors joined in. Frank fixed my fence after the storm. No charge. Frank taught my son basic carpentry for his Eagle Scout project. Spent 6 Saturdays with him. Frank Morrison worked construction for 40 years and saved every penny for his family. Most generous man in Cyprus. By Friday morning, the neighborhood sentiment had completely shifted. Rebecca's Instagram comments section became a battlefield. Girl, did you see the Nextdoor post? Your father-in-law spent $500,000 on you. Delete this GoFundMe before you get charged with fraud. $500,000 and you're calling him financially abusive? Your husband's dad paid for his education, your wedding, your house, and your car. Maybe show some gratitude? Rebecca started deleting comments, then restricted her account. Too late. Screenshots were everywhere. Tyler's LinkedIn post attracted different attention. Bro, your dad spent $525,000 on your life and you're complaining about boundaries. This is why millennials get a bad reputation. Entitlement much? Your father sounds like a saint. Maybe apologize instead of playing victim? Tyler deleted his post by noon Friday, but the GoFundMe was still active, still asking for money to fight the man who'd funded their entire adult lives. Friday evening, I made one more call to James Patterson. James, I want to buy a full-page ad in the Cyprus Community Newsletter. Frank, what kind of ad? The math. Just the math. Let people see exactly what modern economics look like when someone else pays the bills. The truth was becoming public, and the math was about to become unavoidable. The neighborhood barbecue was scheduled for Saturday, April 15th. Annual spring gathering, rotating hosts. This year, the Hendersons were hosting. Perfect timing. Tyler and Rebecca had been hiding since my Nextdoor post went viral. Their GoFundMe got reported for fraud and taken down Thursday night. Rebecca's Instagram went private. Tyler stopped answering his work phone, but they couldn't hide from the neighborhood barbecue. Not when Rebecca had been posting about it for weeks, excited to show off her pregnancy announcement to the community. I arrived at 5 p.m. with a folding chair and a manila folder. 43 neighbors were there, kids running around, grills smoking, the usual small-town Texas gathering. But the conversations were different this year. Quieter, watching for drama. Mrs. Henderson approached me first. Frank, honey, how are you holding up? Just fine, Mrs. Henderson, beautiful evening for a barbecue. Are Tyler and Rebecca coming? I believe so. Rebecca posted this morning about her pregnancy announcement. Mrs. Henderson glanced at the manila folder in my hands. Frank, what's in there? Just some documents, in case anyone has questions. At 5:30, Tyler's Tesla pulled up. He sat in the car for 2 minutes before getting out. Rebecca emerged slowly, one hand on her barely visible belly, playing up the pregnant victim angle. The crowd noticed immediately. Conversation stopped. Kids kept playing, but every adult was watching. Tyler and Rebecca made a beeline for the far corner of the yard near the Pattersons' fence, as far from me as possible. I stayed put. Folding chair, manila folder, plate of Mrs. Henderson's brisket. For 20 minutes, we existed in the same space without acknowledging each other. Tyler made small talk about work. Rebecca discussed baby names and morning sickness, but the tension was thick enough to cut. Then Rebecca's boss arrived. Jennifer Walsh, marketing director for some Dallas firm. Mid-40s, sharp dresser, drove a BMW. Rebecca had been bragging about impressing her for months. Jennifer made the rounds, introduced herself, complimented the Hendersons on their landscaping. Eventually, she found her way to Rebecca. Rebecca, congratulations on the pregnancy. How are you feeling? Oh, Jennifer, it's been so stressful. Family drama, you know how it is. Jennifer glanced around the gathering. Nothing serious, I hope. This was Rebecca's moment, her chance to control the narrative in front of her boss. Actually, it's been really difficult. Tyler's father has been, well, he's having trouble accepting our success. He's trying to evict us from our home because we asked for some basic boundaries. Jennifer looked concerned. Evict you? That's terrible. He owns the land our house sits on. We've put so much money into improvements, but now he wants to sell it to strangers. I think he resents that Tyler earns more than he ever did. Several neighbors had drifted closer, pretending to watch the kids while listening to the conversation. Tyler joined in. Dad just can't accept that we've moved beyond his generation's way of thinking about money. Jennifer nodded sympathetically. Some older people struggle with their children's success. It threatens their sense of relevance. That's when I stood up. Excuse me, Jennifer. I'm Frank Morrison, Tyler's father. Jennifer turned, clearly uncomfortable. Oh, hello. I couldn't help overhearing Rebecca's version of events. Would you like to hear mine? Tyler went pale. Dad, don't. Tyler, your wife just told your boss that I resent your success, and that you've invested so much money in improvements. I thought Jennifer might like to know the actual numbers. I opened my manila folder. Jennifer, do you work with budgets in your marketing job? Yes, of course. Good. You'll appreciate this breakdown. The entire gathering had stopped pretending to do other things. Everyone was listening now. Tyler's education at Texas A&M $67,000, paid by me. I held up the tuition receipts. Tyler's wedding reception, $23,000, paid by me. Wedding photos and catering invoices. Down payment on Tyler's Tesla, $8,000, paid by me. Bank transfer documentation. Property purchase for their home, $180,000, paid by me. Original deed, purchase agreement. Co-signing their construction loan, $240,000, guaranteed by me. Loan documents. Jennifer was staring at the papers, doing mental math. Home improvements over 5 years. Tyler and Rebecca contributed $4,600. I contributed $7,200 in materials, plus 240 hours of labor. Tyler tried to interrupt. Dad, stop this. Tyler, your wife just told your boss that you've invested so much money. How much exactly? Silence. I'll help you. In 5 years of living rent-free on my land, in the house I made possible, you've contributed $4,600 total. Jennifer looked at Rebecca. $4,600? Over 5 years? Rebecca's face was flushing red. Frank, this is inappropriate. Rebecca, you made it appropriate when you posted it on social media, when you started a GoFundMe claiming I was financially abusing you. Mrs. Patterson stepped forward. Rebecca, you started a GoFundMe? We needed help with legal fees. Legal fees to fight the man who spent $500,000 on your life? Tyler finally exploded. Dad, enough! Yes, you helped us financially. We're grateful. But that doesn't give you the right to control our lives forever. Control your lives. Tyler, I sold my property. That's not control, that's ownership. You sold it to hurt us. I sold it because your wife called me an emotional abuser for remembering my investments. Because you told me I had a blue-collar mentality that prevented me from understanding modern economics. The crowd was dead silent. So I got educated. Modern economics says property sells for market value. Market rent for your house is $2,800 a month. Your wife's Hermes handbag costs $2,400. You can afford the handbag, but not the housing. Jennifer was backing away slowly, clearly wanting to escape this family meltdown. Tyler, tell Jennifer about respect. Tell her about boundaries. Tell her about the side entrance you made me use at parties because I looked like hired help. Tyler was crying now. Dad, please. Tell her about the phone call where your wife said my generation doesn't understand property investment. Tell her about being embarrassed by the man who built your entire life. Rebecca grabbed Tyler's arm. We're leaving. Rebecca, wait. I pulled out one more document. You might want to see this first. The new property deed, sold to Pinnacle Development, LLC for $420,000. Cash. Closed yesterday. Congratulations, you're now officially tenants. Your new landlord wants to meet Monday to discuss lease terms. Rebecca stared at the deed like it was a death certificate. Frank, Jennifer said quietly, How much did you say they contributed financially? $4,600, Jennifer. Over 5 years. About $77 per month. Jennifer looked at Tyler and Rebecca with something between disgust and pity. Well, I think I'll go get some dessert. She walked away. Fast. Tyler and Rebecca stood there, surrounded by 40 neighbors who now knew the truth. Mrs. Henderson broke the silence. Tyler, honey, you should apologize to your father. Tyler looked around the gathering, every face staring at him, waiting. I'm sorry, Dad. For what specifically? For being ungrateful, for treating you badly, and for letting Rebecca disrespect you. Rebecca turned on him. Tyler! It's true, Rebecca. We've been horrible to him, but I wasn't finished. Tyler, there's one more thing the neighborhood should know. Tyler braced himself. Your new landlord? Pinnacle Development? They specialize in commercial properties, shopping centers, office buildings. The crowd murmured. They bought your residential property for commercial development. Demolition starts in 60 days, Rebecca screamed. The status reversal was complete. 6 weeks later, Tyler and Rebecca moved into a 2-bedroom apartment in Katy. $3,200 a month. No garage, no yard, no room for the baby furniture they'd already bought. The demolition crews started Monday morning. I drove by once to watch them tear down the house Tyler thought he owned. The deck we'd built together came down in pieces. The $420,000 from the sale bought me a small ranch in East Texas. 40 acres, paid in full. No mortgage, no neighbors who know our family history. Tyler calls every Sunday now. We talk about the weather, his job, Rebecca's pregnancy. We don't talk about respect or boundaries or property investment. We don't need to. He learned those lessons at $2,800 a month. Rebecca's Instagram is still private. Tyler deleted his LinkedIn post permanently. The GoFundMe page exists only in screenshots, preserved as evidence of what entitlement looks like when it goes public. Tyler's boss transferred him to a different team after the barbecue story spread through their office. Apparently, Jennifer shared the details during Monday morning meetings. Bad optics for a senior developer who can't manage his personal finances or family relationships. Rebecca's father cut off their financial support after learning the full story. Turns out Richard doesn't appreciate being manipulated by his daughter's version of events. He called me personally to apologize. The baby is due in October. Tyler asked if I wanted to be involved as a grandfather. I told him that depends on whether they want me involved as a father first. Respect isn't inherited, it's earned. Every month when Tyler writes that rent check, he remembers that lesson. Every time Rebecca looks at their cramped apartment, she remembers what she lost when she chose entitlement over gratitude. Some people call what I did cruel. Maybe it was. But sometimes cruelty and kindness look exactly the same from the outside. I gave Tyler everything for 32 years. It made him weak, entitled, and disrespectful. Now I've given him something else, consequences. That might be the most valuable gift I ever gave him. And unlike the others, this one he'll never forget.